Hey, so what is going on, everyone? It is me, Mr. Mario.
And Dope Swanner.
And hey, how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing just dandy. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for asking. And Dope Stoner, what are we going to be talking about today on ModChat?
We are going to be talking about region lock.
Yes, we are. We're going to be talking about region locking of systems, games, all that good stuff. And what exactly is ModChat? For anybody who's new.
ModChat is basically our podcast that we are going now on episode 10. And we decided it would be fun to basically create this podcast for those people that were interested in hearing more about modding stuff. Because as you know, both me and Mr. Mario started off and pretty much primarily focused on Xbox 360 modding scene. That's what we started off with in the YouTube scene. And, it's been pretty dry in terms of news and anything lately when it comes to updates. But for those of you guys that want more modding stuff, we decided that we would do this podcast. That way we could talk about anything from PS3 modding, Xbox modding, our opinions on it, different communities, things we like and don't like, and all sorts of other topics to give you guys something to basically listen to and hopefully enjoy during these times of drought.
Exactly. And, hopefully people have been enjoying it. It seems like people have really been enjoying the series so far.
Yeah, I do again, I've been seeing nothing but positive comments in terms of, people looking forward to them, God, English is great, looking forward to them and, basically giving feedback on different things we say in the videos, whether they agree or disagree. Either way, it's been a really good experience and a lot of positive feedback from you guys.
Can't agree on that. And also, I just want to say, Daniel here is so dedicated to this that right now he is. Well, where are you recording from? Where is the Daniel trap recording place at right now?
I am in my recording lab, which is a glorified way of saying I'm over at my best buddy's house and on his laptop using his blue snowball sitting in his my godson's closet. So that is my recording studio. It is the only place in his apartment where I can get away and have some quiet, and hopefully we won't hear a baby crying. But if we do hear a baby crying, then I want to apologize in advance, but luckily he's napping right now.
I've told him, I said, I'm not going to say you're in the closet, I'll just say you're in the sound booth right now.
Yeah,
recording.
Exactly. That's why you taught me well, so thank you very much. That way I don't get any, obvious, puns or any weird things coming out of this situation.
Oh, hey, it's all good. I'm looking out for you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So, today, as I said, we're going to be talking about region locking. And region locking, to me, is something that, just like a bunch of other things, I don't like. And this is something that a lot of people have used as a reason to modify their consoles to get past region locks. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, because now we're pretty spoiled, I mean, the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One are both region-free. The PlayStation 3, is also region-free as well. And then, the Xbox 360, that had selective regions on it. Like, the consoles themselves have been locked to a certain region, but when it came to the games, there were several games that were locked to one region, there were several games that were locked to multiple regions, there were also a lot of games that are region-free, so depending on the copy you got, or if you got any copy worldwide, it would work on any system worldwide, which was also a neat way of doing it, but now, with the new iteration, we don't need that, but prior to that, there were a lot of consoles, especially Sony consoles, that you had to modify in order to play games from other regions if you didn't want to buy another console.
Exactly, which, as you know, I learned the hard way, basically, from when I was visiting family overseas. I bought a PS2 game. God, I don't know how old I was at the time, but I didn't know anything about region locking, and I brought the game home, popped it in, and obviously, as you guys know, since it was bought in Europe and I live in the United States, that did not work, and that was my first experience with the issue of region locking in games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now, I was wanting to know about this, when you did that, did you think that it was a defective disc or anything, or did you just immediately know it was region locking?
I didn't know exactly right off the bat what was going on. I mean, I originally thought actually my PS2 just didn't work, but I popped in another game that I, played all the time, and it loaded right up no problem, which at that point I believe, I took to the internet and saw that, there was a difference between PAL games and NTSC, so that's basically when I discovered that was a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, one big thing I do want to say is a lot of people, in the U.S., there's been several games I wanted to play there in Japan or Europe or anywhere, so, I've modified my systems, but one big thing with region locking is people in Europe definitely liked to, modify their consoles to play games from other regions, but even just, even before our time or anything, just get systems that were completely from here, because I'm not sure how familiar you are with this, but are you familiar with the difference in hertz and refresh rate and everything between us and Europe?
No, I'm not.
In the US, we had 60 hertz, and in Europe, they had 50 hertz. And a lot of games that were made in the US were supposed to be, or made, for Japanese and US systems, because for anyone that doesn't know, Japan and the United States, they're both NTSC, except Japan is NTSC-J, we're NTSC-U, and we both run on 60 hertz, while Europe gets PAL, and they run on 50 hertz. So even, back with the Genesis and all that, their games and their systems were running at 50 hertz. Ours were running at 60 hertz, and there were a lot of games that were developed either in the US or in Japan that weren't converted properly to play at 50 hertz, and even if they were, a lot of people that didn't know about that difference, they play them, they're like, for some reason Sonic the Hedgehog just seems a little slower than the American version. Why is that?
So the hertz basically is the response time, essentially?
It's the refresh rate.
Okay, got you. So it kind of creates some form of just unsmoothness to the game?
Exactly, and I'll say this as well. There's a big difference. There's a difference between frames per second and refresh rate. A lot of people like to say they're the same things, and there are people that, and this is where you kind of muddy it up too, there's people that say, well, 60 hertz is 60 frames a second. That's definitely not true. However, if you're playing at a lower hertz, it is going to look like the game is running slower and everything. And there's also games, for example, like Sonic, I'm pretty sure it has to be, and there's even other classic games that run at 60 hertz, but even something I didn't know until like a year or two ago is most people, in the US, we played with composite, like the yellow, red, white cables, and because of that, those games they were running at 60 hertz internally, 60 frames internally, but we only got 29.97, so we were watching them at 30 frames.
What was the better option than running S-Video?
I'm not even sure about the limitation of S-Video, but I believe with RGB or like VGA, SCART, anything like that, you can get past that.
I mean, have you ever, just a side question, have you ever used S-Video?
I have not.
Okay.
I've actually never used S-Video. That's weird.
Yeah, I haven't either. That's what I was wondering, but I just remember seeing and hearing a lot about it at one point, so I wondered, since, you are obviously very involved with video games and electronics, whether you would actually use that or not.
Never. I did a bunch of composite. I tried component, HDMI, VGA, RGB, SCART, and all that stuff, but never did S-Video. And it's like, at this point, it's kind of useless, because I'm like, well, especially on my older systems, if I have SCART, I use SCART.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, I just never really knew the benefits of using S-Video, so that's why, and it wasn't, to me, it wasn't really standard, essentially, compared to, like, everyone used yellow, white, and red, or, the component cable, or composite cables.
Exactly. Yeah,
so.
But that's one thing, like, a bunch of people in Europe, they got screwed over with that, because I want to say, I want to say this is at least unofficial, but I've even heard some people say that, the older retro systems were actually made less powerful in their European releases because they didn't need that extra 10 hertz.
Wow. Well, Sonic was the example you used, and I could definitely see how in a game like Sonic especially, how that 10 hertz can make such a huge difference just because it's such a fast-paced game,
Exactly.
It's a really quick-moving game. It's like, there's a lot of scene moving going on in that game.
Exactly. Yeah, one first thing that I'd want to get into, with talking about if you have to modify your system to play a game from another region or anything like that would be recently with the Wii U, I want to say, they did put up Ocarina of Time as a ROM on there. And, people were excited and all that because, first off, it's Zelda, second, it's Ocarina of Time, and third, it's an N64 game. One of the best ones out there and one of the best games ever, period. So what ended up happening is, they ended up putting this game up, and you can buy it. It's available worldwide, so in Japan, US, Europe, whatever it is. But one of my friends in Europe actually ended up buying it, or he looked into it at least. I think he was going to buy it, and he decided not to, because in Europe, they ended up releasing the European version, which, even though everything's running through, HDMI now and everything, it doesn't matter, but they released the 50 hertz version of it in Europe digitally.
That doesn't make any logical sense. Like, absolutely none. Why? It's not even, since it's emulation and it's HDMI, like you just said, that makes no sense why they'd get that version, which is going to be obviously a sluggy-ish, more, not clean version.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's why a lot of people complain about it, because they're just like, okay, seriously, it's 2015, just give us the 60 hertz version. The American version is like the same thing, and it's in English, and it runs better.
I feel grateful. For living in the States, even though I know this is a small reason, but that's kick ass. I wasn't even aware of that, man. That's crazy.
Of course, yeah, and that's even one thing I'll get into when I have played PAL games on North American systems and everything. It depends on the system as well. Some systems they're able to play them just fine. For example, like the Sega Saturn, I believe even the original Xbox, when I've modified them, I've been able to play PAL games on them with no issues. But I know specifically the PS1 and 2, sometimes you'd have games that are jumping all over the screen. Sometimes you'd have games that are black and white and jumping all over the screen. And most time you'd have to, even if you convert them over, with a boot disk or anything like that, sometimes it works. But most of the time, my best success was, modifying the actual ISO itself and reburning it.
When you say modifying the actual ISO, you're talking about a game like you basically...
Like apply a patch that will play that PAL game in NTSC mode.
Oh, okay. Got it. Is there actually a software that you use for that, or what do you use when you do that?
I don't even remember, man. It's been so long.
Okay.
Last time I did it was with the PS2, which was like before I even, had my own PC or anything like that.
Do you okay, from what you know of it, though, do you think it was a pretty simplistic process?
Depends. The developers of those programs made it easy for us, but then again, at the same time, they had to put in all that work and everything, and also like the PS1 and 2, mainly the PS2, that wasn't the most like backup friendly or like I guess like burned game friendly device to start off with.
Yeah. I have a kind of like a, not theory or a, I don't know if I'd want to call it a oh god, I can't think of the word right now, but okay, so how basically, like you said, the PS4 and the Xbox One, along with the 360 and basically the PS3 were region free. Well, do you think that along with how they're having certain games coming out on the consoles that are allowed to have mods and whatnot, that this is potentially an attempt at these console developers to try to prevent people from wanting to jailbreak them, since those are some of the reasons why people jailbreak or modify?
Are you saying like region free, so like they don't modify the system, make it region free?
Exactly. Like, so the people that would want region free no longer have to actually modify. They're happy with it. The people that want like actual mods that are not cheating online mods don't want to do it anymore because it's just easily to apply. Do you think that's a possibility?
That's a really good hypothesis, and I think there is some truth to that. Now, granted, this is a theory. We're just saying that out right now, but I think that is a really good theory that I actually hadn't thought of before. I thought of one of the pieces, but not the second piece that you just mentioned.
Yeah, because to me, I mean, again, it's just conspiracy theory at this point, but I'm just saying I can definitely see some potential for companies to be thinking that way, at least at some point,
Well, that's even one thing. Like, that's one reason why a lot of people modified systems. Like, for example, like, let's take the original Xbox. As I said, you can play PAL games on NTSC system with little to no issues on there. And what you could do is, instead of importing a European Xbox, paying, a ton of money, waiting like 2 months for it to get over here and everything, or trying to find one in the US, what you could do is you could just soft mod your system and then play the game that way.
Yeah. So again, this is basically a way where obviously that by allowing modifications for games and also having region free, these companies aren't trying to what's the word, entice people that are for piracy, but they're trying to entice other people that actually want to do positive things, but are unable to do so. Things that aren't actually harming the game or the community or anything like that.
Exactly. Well, sometimes, I mean, what annoys me too is sometimes it's frankly complete bullshit. Like, there was even one game, Anarchy Reigns, for example. That game came out, it was a region-free game on the Xbox 360, came out like at least 3 or 4 months in Japan before it hit the US, and the game, when it launched in Japan, was completely in English.
Huh.
Like, the game was ready to be published and all that over here. It was fine. It was good to go. It was 100%. As I said, it was region free, so you could have imported a copy, played it on a legit non-modified 360, and it would have been fine. But for some reason, we had to wait a few months.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it wasn't even a big release. I mean, you could buy it for like $5 or $10 now. I wanted it because it had Steve Bloom in there, and it was a pretty fun beat 'em up.
That's funny. I've never even heard it. Are you saying that was on again PS2?
No, Xbox 360. I think PS3 as well too.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, even when I've looked into it, because I did a bit of research on this as well, like, most of the time when they do separate out games, they have pretty poor excuses. Like, some of the things I've seen, it's more from a business standpoint, really. Like, first off, from some of the business stuff, they've said, there's been some games that have been published, that they're created by the same dev team, but they're published by different people in different areas. So you might have one game that's published by 4 different companies worldwide. Then even as a cultural type thing, there are a lot of games that do have to, especially games that come from Japan and they go either to Europe or the US, they have to have a lot of censorship or things tweaked on them before they come out here. And not just like gameplay things, I'm talking, like storyline things and all that would be deemed offensive or just wouldn't, fly over here.
because things, again, cultural differences basically come at play in that point.
Exactly.
I also wonder, because again, obviously that these companies, the number one goal in the end, really at the end of the day, is profit. I wonder if when they do these like multiple launches versus just launching them worldwide and things like that, if they're trying to basically, if they launch it somewhere else, they kind of test the waters and see, okay, we need to do this differently when we launch over here. I'm sure there's got to be some marketing factors along with just other financial reasons for them to do these kind of releases like that in waves, if you will. Again, especially if, like how the other game you were saying was in English, ready to rock and roll already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, another game that's out like right now, at least while we're doing this recording, it might be out by the time we release it. Yoshi's Woolly World. A really big new Nintendo game, first party Nintendo game that's coming out. That was released in Japan and Europe. It came out in Europe in June. And since it's in Europe, it's in English and everything, and it's ready to go. And we still don't have it. And it's almost October.
Is there a set release date in the US?
There is a set release date, but I'm just like, why are we getting it at least 4 months late if it's already ready?
Yeah, that's strange, man. Again, but you know that there's motives. You know that they're not like, oh, like let's just do it later on. I mean, it's got to be something to do with, I don't know, it's something with sales or something with money.
Of course. Yeah, and even like that game, for example, if I had a way of playing region-free games on my Wii U, I might have just imported it and played it here, but there's no way to modify the Wii U yet, and I'm not paying, over $300 to get a European Wii U.
No, hell no. Absolutely no. Where is so aside, but like when you do import games, because I've never done that. Where do you usually go about to import them?
You could do them from eBay. I've got some games off eBay, Amazon as well too. Sometimes you can get them from there. Play Asia is a pretty big one as well.
That's just a basically marketplace for Japanese games.
Exactly. Games from everywhere, really, because you also have people that are like in the exact opposite position. You have people like in Japan who want to get American games for whatever reason.
Which direction? Because I think from what I understand, I would feel like Japan definitely gets more releases earlier than we do. Is that correct, or do you think it goes kind of both ways, 50-50?
I would say Japan. They seem to be like a lot of, there's a lot of games being produced in the West and in Europe now. So it really differs, but there are still a lot of games that never make it out of Japan, and there's also a lot of games that are released first in Japan.
Got you. Yeah, because I know my buddy is actually the guy that I'm over at his house. He's a huge fan of JRPGs. Fucking like loves them. And I know that for a lot of them, like he's again, he never got them right when they launched originally, but a lot of them were, again, they've been out in Japan for a long time, and they basically just made their way over here over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing has been, what game was it? No, these are just games in general, Some companies have even said, well, there's going to be cultural differences, or there'll be language barriers as well, too. Like, I know you'd mentioned Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, where for the longest time that was only in Japanese in Japan. And my thing is that I've never really heard a super good excuse, because even with that reason, if you're saying, oh, well, we can't release it in the US because it's all in Japanese, it's like, make the system region free, and I can't go to Walmart and buy a Japanese game. I can't get a Japanese imported game from Target or Walmart or GameStop or anywhere like that. You know where I have to go? I have to go online. So leave that to the person who's buying the system, because if I want to suffer through a game that's only in a language that I can't understand, let me do it. I understand the risk I'm taking.
Well, then you damn well should be able to.
Exactly, because you can't easily import games. Like, you have to actually find the sites and then go online and buy them from there. It's very rare that somebody is going to accidentally buy an imported copy of a game that's going to be locked in another language.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the covers of them usually have, like, Japanese, writing or, whatever, or something like that, too. Plus it, I don't know. Again, like you just basically said, it's like, it's a hassle in itself. So you're a certain type of person if you're going out there and trying to find that game. You obviously really want to play it. You're hyped for it, and you know what you're getting yourselves into. Because
Exactly.
I've never almost accidentally purchased a Japanese import of a game. Over all my years of online buying stuff, it'd be the person that they want that. That's what they're going for.
Yeah, I was about to say, actually, think about every game I've imported. I've looked for those games specifically. I've never once accidentally bought an import version of a game.
Yeah, like you never had a game trip. You're like, oh shit, it's a Japanese import. I wanted come on, dude, it just doesn't happen. Because it's not mainstream targeted at the USA, and it's not going to come up in the search result when you're searching for things, unless you are specifically targeting that, and again, going out of your way to hunt it down.
Exactly. I think the closest I've ever been is I've gone to like a local mom and pop shop and I see they have a few Japanese games. I'm like, oh, sweet, there's Japanese games, there's European games there. But I also recognize that too, because not only, it says NTSC-J or PAL on it, but it's in a completely different language or it has a different type of cover or anything. So there's something different.
Plus, I feel like, honestly, the majority of people actually go to game stores. If you're not just going to, like, GameStop, you kind of know what you're getting yourselves into. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
And plus, like, the people working there, again, that goes against what I saw today. I told you at my game store, but I feel like the people working there, these places with the Japanese imports, should know, and they'd probably even, like, say something. Like, like, that's cool. It's just something. I don't know. I don't feel like it's going to be like, but I don't know, man. It's just... It's a dumb excuse. Like, the whole, like, it'd be a problematic thing, basically. That's stupid.
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, really what I'm saying here is I do support systems going region-free, games going region-free and everything, because I also think, that will do... I feel like companies are also doing this to, as you said, curb console modifying, because as I said, a lot of people, what they would do is they would import systems from other regions. So you're just giving somebody in Europe or Japan or wherever it is a whole bunch of money to get one of those systems early. None of that extra money is going to go to the company themselves. So Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, whoever they aren't going to make that profits that the person you just bought it from made. And then even when it comes to the games themselves, it's like, you're gonna have to pay a premium for these most of the time. And they also don't want people, modifying their systems, opening them up or anything. So they're just like, hey, there's people like you and I that want to modify our systems to tinker around with them. And there's some people where they just want to play Japanese or European games on there. And I've told them, like, if you want to play some European exclusives on your 360, you could spend about $50-$60 and just modify it. So you don't play online already. You'll have to keep it offline, if you JTAG it or whatever it is, or reset glitch it. But now you're going to have a completely region-free system. You don't have to buy, 3 different systems, one from Japan, Europe, and America to play all your games.
They're basically satisfying that group.
Exactly.
By doing that. And the thing is, too, I know that, you believe the same way as I do, and we both believe in basically openness and being able to do what you want with your console within region. So, it's a beautiful thing. And also, I mean, I feel like, again, this could be just completely BS, but the people that are going out and actually getting JRPGs and like wanting to play imports, they're obviously pretty knowledgeable game people. They're definitely more involved with gaming than your casual, like, let's play some Madden or let's play some COD type gamer.
Of course.
And so I feel like these people are involved when it comes to like communities and things like that, and they also are involved with people that want to make those games able to play on the consoles. So they're working together with people to make that a reality. So by satisfying that group, they're basically not preventing, but there's not as much of a desire for them to unlock a console, because when the console's unlocked again, then you've got they got issues with piracy coming along and things like that, and that's obviously not something that any game developer or console big console company wants.
Of course. Yeah, there's one story I kind of want to just throw in here randomly, but are you familiar with the Shenmue series at all?
That the word is highly familiar, but I couldn't picture it. But yeah, that definitely sounds very familiar.
Pretty big open world game that was on Dreamcast and Xbox. The first one came out on Dreamcast and only on the Dreamcast, and the second one came out on the Dreamcast in Europe and Japan, but America we only got on the Xbox. What ended up happening, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the first one, as I said, it came out everywhere on the Dreamcast. Easy enough. The second one, it ended up coming out on the Dreamcast in Japan and Europe. And Europe actually got the English version of it as well, too. But it was canceled in the US because they moved it over to the Xbox. So this is the one cool thing, honestly, the one cool thing that EB Games and GameStop has ever done. But for all the people that pre-ordered the game on Dreamcast, instead of canceling their pre-orders, they ended up importing a ton of copies of the European release and gave you a free boot disc when you purchased the game.
That's freaking tight.
Yeah.
I remember like one point you mentioning this to me, and again, you're saying this was the console, because you said it came out on Xbox in the US?
Yeah.
So it basically allowed you to do on the PS2. It allowed the boot disc again was for the PS2 then, so that way you can play it.
No, this was for the Dreamcast, so you could play imported games.
Okay, got you. Dreamcast.
Yeah, and and GameStop actually sold it to you. Like with that, they didn't charge you anything extra. Like if you paid $50 for the game, they're like, well, the American version won't be coming out, but here's the European version. And here's the boot disc, so you can play the European version.
Where did they even get the boot discs from?
I don't know.
Dude, I think it'd be pretty rad to have a copy of one of those boot discs. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
the OG ones, the ones that they handed out. Whoever has one of those, I'm
Of
sure.
course, I know they weren't burned, but I don't remember if they sold them. I know Utopia came out, so you could just easily find the Utopia boot disc online and burn that over.
Yeah, no, that's freaking awesome though.
Yeah, as I said, that's like the coolest thing that GameStop and EB Games has ever done. I had respect for them for doing that.
I can guarantee they wouldn't do something like that nowadays.
Oh no, definitely not.
No way in hell, dude.
Yeah, but even when it shows that, when it shows a company like that is doing something like that, in 2000, 2001, it's like, really, do we really need these systems region locked? Because if you're locking them, you're just going to give people a reason to circumvent the protection.
Yep, and also the cool thing is about that at that point it showed that GameStop and EB Games actually still gave a shit about the gamers.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
'cause they basically went out of their way to make keep their promise true, if you will, and get you the game that you were promised when you paid for it.
Of course, of course.
So yeah, that's freaking awesome, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely. Again, when it comes to PAL and NTSC and all that, was there not at one point where that was basically an issue because of the television, like the televisions not being able to run them accordingly?
Yes, that was a big issue. This is when people were dealing with analog and all that, and with that I can understand. But even this brings in a few other complex things, which some of these things might go over people's heads, but I'm sure a lot of people understand them. So you had PAL, NTSC. PAL was over in Europe. NTSC, we had NTSC J, C, and U. U for the United States, the Americas here. J for Japan, C for China. What ended up happening with all that was, in over for NTSC, we got 60 hertz, which that's another thing. A lot of people synonymize hertz, which is the refresh rate, with frames per second. That's definitely not true. You can have a game running at 60 hertz and it's 20 frames per second. That can happen. Play any older PS1 game. But no, there was that going on. And then in Europe, they had 50 hertz. So that was one big thing where in Europe, because of their standards, they could not handle NTSC games. And here, we also couldn't handle European games. So I even remember distinctly, there were some games on the PlayStation 1 or 2 when I was loading up the imports of them. Many times I would have to either have, a disc of some kind to force it over to NTSC, or I would have to patch the game itself to play in NTSC mode.
That's well, again, just for people, like when it comes to the hertz and when it comes to the frames per second. I mean, like when you go out and you buy a monitor, basically it usually says the hertz on that monitor, while the frames per second, we're talking more so like what the hardware can output, what the developers for that game have basically allowed that game to be run at. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I'm still like, I mean, again, I'm trying to put the two and two together, because I mean, I feel like they're like you said, they're different but sort of similar-ish in a sense.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, even, for example, my TV is 240 hertz, but that doesn't mean the games I play on my Xbox One are running at 240 frames per second. No, that's just how fast the TV is being refreshed at, which you can't even see 240 hertz, but the faster it's being refreshed, that means, the less ghosting you're going to have and the clearer the image is going to be.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing also a lot of people, I'll throw this in, a lot of people get confused with as well, too, is, they'll see older games, for example, like the Smash Bros. Games, where Smash Bros. On N64, they'll say, oh yeah, that game was running at 60 frames a second. It was, but you're not looking at it at 60 frames. Most people, at least in the US, they were playing at, did my phone just go off? No? Okay. Most people in the US were playing at, using composite. I just slipped my mind there, which is, the yellow, red, and white cables. And composite output is limited to 29.97 frames per second. So you could have a game running at 100 frames per second internally, and it's running, but you're only seeing 30 frames a second.
You know how you on the N64, I don't know if it's possible or not. I feel like you would know this. Is there a way to make it where you can get that 60 frames?
I'm quite sure you're able to do it through SCART to RGB. If I'm mistaken, nobody yell at me. Just please correct me down in the comments section.
Yeah, we're just two dudes, so we're conversing. I'd actually like to know. So if we are wrong, please let us know.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, because I would just be curious. It'd be cool if you can kind of unlock. Because I know I've seen things, again, in terms of like overclocking, but again, that would have nothing to do with the actual output of the cable itself.
Of course. Yeah, so people get that mixed up too, but that's been one thing with the with the hardware itself, you can't really use that excuse anymore, because back when it was all analog and everything with the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2, you could say, yeah, the games have to be developed a certain way in Europe, or they have to be exported a certain way, and they have to be exported a certain way in TSCU over here, so that's understandable. But now everything is HDMI. I actually know of somebody who, he didn't even know he had a European Xbox 360.
Wait, what? Wait, so he just wasn't able to play games?
Yeah, he had this system, he hooked it up, everything worked fine, but there were several games he had that didn't work, and it wasn't until he modified it, I think he probably did a reset glitch to it, but when he dumped the NAND, he saw that it was a European system.
Jeez, that's hilarious. I would like to know the journey that Xbox went through, to get its ass over here.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with it, but that's what I'm saying. Like with HDMI, it's now just a universal standard. Like that all works out. We have 1080p over in Europe. They have 1080p. We have 4K. They have 4K. Prior to that, there was differences in resolution and refresh rate between the two systems. Now that's no longer a thing. It's still kind of regarded, for movies and all that, where they have certain regions for DVDs and Blu-rays and all that, but aside from that, no, it's going to be the same thing for video game systems now, or anything, with HDMI output.
Yeah, well, times have changed, and now we're on a universal standard, basically.
Exactly, which I'm really happy for that. Now, the thing I've been wanting to hold back on a little bit, but I'll go ahead and bring it out, is that Nintendo still hasn't gone with the times. In fact, Nintendo's actually gone backwards with the region locking.
It's funny that you just said that right now, because I was going to confirm with you. I remember you basically just said that there was that Yoshi game that's been out since June, I believe you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because I was going to ask them, because that, again, PS4 and Xbox One are indeed region-free, but the Wii U, again, so you basically just confirmed, is not indeed region-free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, you'd have to, for example, the Wii, you had to modify that to make it region-free. The Wii U, whenever something comes along, or something comes to fruition, that will hopefully be modified to be region-free as well, too. But, even back in the day with the original Nintendo had the tin NES chip inside of it, which was to, one, curb piracy, so anybody making pirate carts, couldn't put them out on the system, at least easily. Tinjin and other people were able to circumvent that. And two, they didn't want, cartridges from other regions being played. I almost said unauthorized, but that would have been the same thing. But no cartridges from other regions, so they had different chips in them, or some of them were missing the chips. So you would have to, if you got a system, a cartridge from Europe or Japan or anything, it wouldn't work on your American system. And then even with other ones, Sega did that as well too, and then Europe did it where I know Sega, for example, if you tried to play a Japanese Genesis game on a US system, it would work, but you would have to physically modify the system, cut out the tabs and all that, and kind of butcher your system a little bit for it to run.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I feel like because as you know, I don't have an NES currently anymore, but back when I did, I feel like I had a couple games that were Japanese and the Famicom, and I swore that if you put in a game that was from a different region, the chip would just keep resetting, right? It would keep flashing. Have you ever seen that before?
Oh, no? the blinking light.
Right? That's what it does, though, correct?
Yes.
It's basically that I do remember it was pretty easy to circumvent, but I'm also I don't remember this, but I know that I've seen basically Famicom to NES adapters, but I don't remember. Is this true that if you take the top off of an NES and you basically modify the lockout chip, can you just pop a Famicom directly into the pins already on the NES?
No, because the Famicom games are smaller.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's why they have the adapter.
Exactly.
So, but if you have the adapter, again, you would still have to modify the lockout chip.
You still have to remove that, but for whatever reason, in the top loader NES, they took out the tin NES chip.
Okay, the top loader one, right on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they ended up doing that there, but the reason why I said Nintendo kind of went backwards on this is because the Game Boy product line was region free.
That's
yeah, so their systems were locked, but the Game Boy systems were region free. And then you would think, oh, the DS systems are going to be locked. Well, the DS was also region free as well. And I think the DS Lite, that was the last region-free handheld. When they started becoming locked was with the DSi. So, for example, the DSi variants and the 3DS variants are region-locked, which is why you need a bypass like Region 3 or Region 4 to run 3DS games.
It's funny because I never even thought about that, but my buddy picked up a Japanese Tamagotchi style Game Boy Color game from my swap meet ventures last year, and I didn't even think about that yet. But we went right home, popped it in, and he obviously didn't know what the hell he was doing or couldn't play it, but it did load up just fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a trip, man. That they were okay with handhelds for so long, yet all the way back, dating back from the NES, that they had put in a chip to basically not allow that to be a thing.
And even think about it now, kind of hypothesizing, because as I said, it didn't come to locking until the DSi came out, which the DSi was the first handheld they had that had, marketplace type capabilities. And a lot of these companies, all of them actually, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo do region lock their online marketplaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most of the time it sucks, but that one I could understand a little more, I guess, because it comes to terms with licensing with that. So, for example, some games that are available on the Japanese marketplace, they might not have all the licenses acquired to properly sell them in the US.
Do you know if Nintendo has actually addressed that issue, like in terms of like answering fans or just talking about why or what their plans are for future, or no?
They have, and I don't remember the exact reason, but I think they were saying that they gave a really weak excuse, and I think it was something along the lines of, we don't want people, to play games they're unfamiliar with, or if they play games, that have different languages or whatever it is, so that we want them to pretty much play in their own little sandbox. But it's like, well, that doesn't explain why you had Game Boy to DS Lite be region-free for how long?
So again, that's back to basically what we talked about earlier. It's a dumbass reason that doesn't really make sense, because those people know what they're getting themselves into, and they want to play those games, either before they're available or just because they're only available in that certain language or country at the time.
Exactly, and then, as I said, it's gotten to the point where now the pressure's a lot heavier on Nintendo too, and I don't know if they want to budge or not, but at this point, the Xbox One, region-free completely. The PS4, region-free as well too.
So they're the odd man out.
Exactly, yeah. The Wii U and the 3DS variants are the only systems that are region locked, because the Vita as well too. The Vita is also region free.
Well, again, it'll be interesting to see, because again, back to my conspiracy about how by doing that they're maybe potentially trying to at least slow down or prevent the level of piracy on Xbox and PlayStation, because those people will be satisfied. Well, as you know too, the Wii console was completely just ripped wide open, and so
yep. And if you soft mod that, you just need an SD card. For the original Wii, all you needed was an SD card, and what have with that, yeah. And then you can make the system region free within like 20 minutes.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is if it was that easy, and again, I don't think it's a matter of if, it's when the Wii U is actually. Again, I wouldn't even be surprised if it was already modded and it just hasn't been publicly released. The region, the basically the method of doing so. But again, another conspiracy. But yeah, I just don't understand why that's a thing. Again, it's like get on board with the times. Times have changed. Everyone else is doing it. And again, back to what you just basically said too. You guys already did it a long time ago. What's the difference between whether you're playing it on the go, on a handheld? Like, maybe in their minds, like, oh, if you have a handheld, you're traveling a lot or some shit like that. But again,
exactly, and that helped out so much with, the DS Lite and the DS and the Game Boy. It's like, great, if I'm traveling a bunch, if I go to Japan, I can buy a bunch of Japanese games and play them on here.
Yeah, and so it's like, why are you going to take that away after doing it for so many generations of
exactly.
your console? It just makes no logical sense, and all they literally have to do is apply probably some kind of a little patch to the Wii U and an update, and bam, region free,
Exactly.
It's ridiculous, because again, like we said, before, it made sense when there was some kind of the actual hardware limitation due to, the output in terms of digital, or not digital, but, analog issues. But since that's not the case anymore, it's just, it's dumb. I mean, it'll really be interesting to see whether the Wii U does actually get it, which, knowing Nintendo, and just from like what I know of Nintendo, and them playing hardball and being real stubborn, I honestly just don't see it happening, at least with this, with the Wii U.
Unfortunately, I don't see. I know they're not going to patch the Wii U.
No way in hell.
No way in hell. No, they're not going to do it. They release a system as is. They're not going to do anything.
Yeah. So I guess the ultimate, thing it'll be interesting to see whenever the hell Nintendo does actually drop into their next console, or not next, but next console, whether they will have changed their mind or whether they're going to stick to their, I guess, Amish way of thinking,
Right now, I'm just thinking, like, I'm just kind of like slightly smiling because I'm just thinking of this in like, almost like a cartoony TV show type format. But, it's kind of like with the older systems and all that, like with the Xbox, the PlayStation 2, other systems, where it's like, they made them all region locked. And like, let's take, like the Wii, for example, that was region locked, and they don't, no no company wants people to play pirated games on their systems or anything. But then, people want to play games from other regions. That's one reason why they looked into modifying the Wii. They modify it. Then now you have all this stuff available. So I can imagine all these executives yelling at each other. It's like, well, now all these mod chips and soft mods are out. And now look, not only they can get past the region, but they can play bootleg games on there.
Exactly. It makes no sense, because at the same time, here's the thing, dude. Maybe you've got these people that just want to play their Japanese imports, and they have no intention, like, they're not interested in piracy, they're not interested in anything like that. But if they have to go that route to get to there, they're like, oh, well, shit, it's already unlocked and stuff, might as well. I'm just saying, like, it's like, I feel like they're basically like handing someone a gun with a loaded bullet and like giving them booze and like just waiting to see what happens, when like they didn't want that in the first place, but you basically made them get to that point.
Exactly. Like I have one friend actually who he's against piracy. He doesn't like bootleg or anything, and also he's really lazy, so he's not going to go through the effort of downloading games and finding the DVDs to burn them and all that. But he was such a big Kingdom Hearts fan, he ended up importing Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix with Chain of Memories that wasn't released in the US at the time, and he never played it because he didn't know how to modify his system. He didn't know anybody that did. And then when he met up with me, I was like, I know how to modify PS2s. I could do that for you if you want me to.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, and he was like all excited because he had no idea I could do that. But I'm like, yeah, no, it's finding the right person. It's because of, people like him, like that target audience, where it's like, if the PS2 was region free, he wouldn't have had that issue. But because it wasn't, he didn't want to go out and import another system, he has to modify it some way.
Yep. They're basically shooting themselves in the foot, dude.
They really are, which is why, as I said, we're kind of repeating ourselves a little bit here, but I want to just, reinforce it. It's like, that's why Sony ended up region locking their system. That's why there's a lot of games on the Xbox 360 that were already region free. And then, with Sony, for example, the first region free console they released, or portable region free thing they released, was the PSP in 2005. And they said, we're not going to game region lock our systems anymore. We're still going to region lock them for movies because we have to, but for games, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Nintendo. We'll see.
Exactly.
Have you heard? I haven't, because I'm not really. I'm a huge Nintendo person. Don't get me wrong, but ever since the Wii, I kind of fell off the Nintendo bandwagon. Aside from, I still like their handhelds. Like, again, I have a 3DS. But have you heard? When they're projecting to potentially have a next console, or no, not really?
No, they've said they have confirmed that Project NX is in production and they're working on it and everything around the clock, but they said they weren't going to be doing anything with it this year at E3, and I believe they also said they do not plan to release it in 2016.
Okay, I kind of figured that. I was just wondering, what's really been going on about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm kind of worried about it because I'm like, Nintendo, they're kind of wanting to push the system out because they know the Wii U's not doing that well, but I still really like the Wii U is my problem.
If I had more friends that would normally come over and play games and stuff, then I would probably play that. But because when I do play with friends, it's usually I'm at my place, they're at theirs. That's one main reason why the Wii U has not really been super appealing.
Oh, the online is so bad on it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So again, my ex-girlfriend had it. We'd all play, me, her, and her siblings. I freaking loved it, dude. We had a blast playing it. But again, I feel like it's definitely targeted towards a certain type of gamer, and that wants a certain type of thing out of it. It's not in my mind, the Xbox One and PS4. People that are debating between those consoles aren't really debating between those with the Wii. They're not.
They're not. No, and I've had to kind of remind myself of that too.
Yeah, completely different things.
Yeah, which again, hey, that's going to be another thing. Both those systems are region free, and then you're going to have the Nintendo guys that are off on the side. They're just like, yeah, our system is region locked, and we have different types of game. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, that blows, dude. It really blows, man. It'll be interesting. Again, I know I'm getting off topic, which I always do, but people, I feel like at this point might expect that from me. It'll be interesting to see whether on the next gen Nintendo console, whether they actually try to combat Xbox and PlayStation, or whether they're just going to kind of stick with what they
I think they should still do their own thing, and I also think they should make it region free so that we don't have to have debates like this anymore, although people will enjoy them.
Yeah, well, maybe maybe thank God it's not region free. That way we can have debates like this. No, I'm just
don't thank God about that. I can't play Yoshi Woolly World right now. I could have been playing it through. I have friends in Europe that have been playing it for the past 2 months. I'm just like, I really want to play it and I can't.
Yeah, that freaking blows, dude.
It does.
I'd be super bummed because honestly, Yoshi games, I freaking love Yoshi, dude. So that would be a game that I'd be interested in getting too, and I'd be pretty irritated that I can't get it, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sucks ass. And can you again, like I know this is kind of like dabbling in, but like if you wanted to per se, like let's say quote unquote you had the game, could you play it on some kind of an emulator or no?
No,
Okay, so
no,
that's
it
the
would just sit there.
that sucks ass, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, at this moment in time, the only way I could play it is if I imported European Wii U.
Uh,
Yeah. Oh, one more thing I was gonna say as well too, which this is just I absolutely hate this. This is stupid, and it's pretty rare, thankfully. But you know what's also region locked sometimes?
I have no idea.
Hardware,
What do
like
you mean?
peripherals, like the Wii U gamepad and Wii U Pro controllers are region locked.
Wait, wait. Oh, you're saying like if you were to plug it in, it just doesn't recognize?
Yeah. Yeah, like an American Pro controller or gamepad will not work on a European system.
That is so dumb.
And vice versa. The weird thing is, I don't know about the gamepads, but at least the Pro controllers, I actually imported mine from Play Asia. I imported all four of mine and got Japanese versions of them. And some people might be asking, okay, you're going way out of your way. You spent all this money. Ironically, no. I got them all brand new. I got them from Japan because for some reason the Japanese ones are region free. And at the time I bought them, they were all cheaper. Buying those and paying for shipping and handling was cheaper than buying them off Amazon.
I just.
So not only I got cheaper controllers, but I got better controllers.
But that's in your situation. That's badass, and like that's that's fucking rad. But I just that makes even less sense. To
That
me.
shouldn't happen. It shouldn't
No.
be like that. It's like
No.
I got a good deal, but Nintendo got screwed there.
The I'm just trying to wrap my head around it because like again I was gonna say maybe it was coming back to the money thing, but based off what you just said, it was a loss of money
Exactly.
because you got it for cheaper.
I paid like $45 per controller or something after shipping and handling and all that, and the controllers are $50 here normally.
Oh my god, I have no idea, dude. That
Yeah.
makes no sense at all. That's news to me. I've never even heard of anything.
A lot of people don't know about that, and I don't know if anyone can confirm it or not, but I don't know if the original Wiimotes are region locked either.
God, what a
Those
trip.
ones I don't know, but I know for sure the Wii U stuff is region locked.
Everything should be cross-platform, not cross-platform, but like cross console-y to the same console and unlocked. It doesn't it doesn't make any sense. Man.
Exactly. I was going to bring this up kind of on the topic of region locking and all that. You know what I completely forgot about, but it's kind of sad. I completely forgot that audio CDs are region free. Like they don't have regions on them. I'm so used to region locking that it just dawned on me a few weeks ago. I was like, wait a minute, I forgot that CDs were region free.
Do you okay? Well, question when it comes to because you said again like how PlayStation basically had to have the region locking on movies still.
Yeah.
Do you know the theory behind that, like why that is?
That I didn't look into the movie thing. I didn't research that because that's outside
again, I
the scope of
understand
what
it's
we're
outside.
talking.
I'm just wondering again what the deal is.
It's mostly because of the movie industry and all that. Just like some things will be licensed and released in certain regions and all that, and it just really varies on it all. Like I guess the audiences and all that, and also I guess when it comes to cultural things as well too. Like some things, for example, like one good example I read about was Dead or Alive Dimensions. For example, I'm talking about a game here, not a movie, but Dead or Alive Dimensions on the 3DS in Japan, they had several of the girls that were underage. And that didn't affect the gameplay or anything, but over there that's fine. In the US and Europe, it's like, well, hold on a minute, we can't really have that. They're in really suggestive poses and all that stuff. So they just had to modify the ages for the external releases of them.
Got you. Which again does make sense, just because laws and the cultural stuff again.
Of course, that makes sense. They can't just sell it on store shelves here. But as I said, if you are importing it from Japan, who's to blame there? You're the person that went out of your way to buy it, which you, as the person who's going to import these things, should know.
Complete side question. But again, when it comes to basically having to import games from Japan or like that. Do you have your eyes on anything that's coming out actually in Japan that is going to be either on Xbox One or PS4 that you're planning on getting?
Right now, I don't, honestly. But then again, I really haven't tracked anything like that.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
the only game I would import right now if I could play it is Yoshi Woolly World.
Okay. Well, because the reason why I'm thinking right now is I'm sure you've at least saw something about the Kingdom Hearts 2.8 coming out, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was just wondering whether they had some kind of like either thing that's coming out before that's going to be a Japanese thing, or whether that's thing already out. But I don't think so. I'm sure.
I don't know. That's the weird thing with Kingdom Hearts. It's kind of a side top we're going on, but with Kingdom Hearts, that's another side thing because it's like those games are actually recorded in English and all that. Like the Japanese releases don't, at least to my knowledge, it would happen with the first and the second one and some other games. They don't have English voice actors. The menus and the text is in Japanese, but all of the audio is in English.
Huh. That's interesting then.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting why they would. Huh.
Exactly.
But the ones that came out, like the ones that basically Chain of Memories, but the Japanese version, the original one or whatever, that the audio on that is also in English, or no, that's Japanese.
I don't even think that one had voice acting in it.
Okay, got you, because PS2 is older.
Well, not only PS2, but it was originally on Game Boy Advance.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So it didn't have anything like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, like Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, those ones, if you got the Japanese version, they were still in English. It's just all the text was in Japanese. That's what got translated if you ever patched them.
Okay. Got you. Huh. Anything else you've got to add to?
Oh, I'm good. I kind of did my ranting and all that on here. In short, I really don't like region locking on systems. I think that's an excellent reason to modify a system, and I'm glad that companies are now. I still love modding, but I'm glad that companies are now getting away from that. And I feel like they are really saying, hey, just let the people do what they want. Let's just unlock the system, make it region free so it can play games from wherever. And if they want to, spend the extra money and lose their warranty and get a game from Japan or something, that's fine. That's completely fine. But then you still have some old heads that are either going backwards or they're not budging, like the Big N.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, when it comes to modding, I'm always going to love modding, and I don't think that if there's an exploit, I'm not going to do it. Just because there's region free stuff like that. But me and you both don't condone piracy by any means, and I definitely think that this is going to be a positive thing in terms of not expanding on that. I think it's just a positive thing having basically the ability to play games from overseas.
Of course. Well, there's also some places as well that they don't have official support for games. Like several of my friends and family members who play games in the Middle East and all that, it's very rare that games come out, specifically in Arabic or geared for the Middle East or anything like that. So if they have a PAL system, they have to get their games from a shop that carries PAL, European games. If they have a NTSC system, they have to get their games from, a shop that has games that are region free or that are NTSCU or anything like that. And some people might even have, Japanese systems sprinkled in there and everything. But then that's also another reason why piracy is so rampant in the Middle East as well, too, is because you have all this stuff. So they're just like, you know what? Let's just import all these damn systems. We'll throw mod chips in them and we'll sell them for like $300 and we'll sell these bootleg games for like $2.
Oh, yeah, dude. They're making a profit.
Oh, yeah.
They're basically like enticing the black market of video games.
They are, and that's because you'll see it, right? That's a good other topic, like that could be for later mod chat. But no, that's what happens when you don't support a market that really wants something.
Oh, they're going to find a way to get it.
Exactly. Oh, they found ways to get it. It's been there for decades. They just.
Yeah.
I see Sony and Microsoft are starting to push more into the Middle Eastern gaming markets, but it's still not full support. Like for example, there's no Arabic option on either of the systems.
Gotcha. Which there should be.
Mm-hmm.
with how multi net or how multi nation it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyways, if anybody has any other ideas that you all would like us to rant and discuss and talk about, please feel free to leave them down below in the comments section if you're watching this on YouTube. And, let us know what you thought of this episode and everything. If you want to check us out other places, we have, first off, Dope Swoner. He has his own YouTube channel, which will be down below in the description. We also are on Facebook, and you can get this in MP3 format through iTunes or Podbean. And all the links will be down below in the description, if I haven't said that like 5 times at this point.
Hey, man, the more the merrier. At least they know.
Exactly.
Can't say you didn't tell them. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely, guys. Thank you guys for watching. We've really been enjoying doing this past year, and I'm pumped again that we've, actually stuck with this because it's been a lot of fun, and I enjoy, discussing things with Mr. Mario and just kind of catching up and stuff like that. And I don't know, it brings up a lot of like old memories and stuff throughout the different topics we do, and different experiences and stuff we've been through over the years.
Absolutely.
So it's awesome. But yeah, again, thank you all very much. Don't forget to like the video, hopefully, and share it with people. And again, comment down below because we like to hear feedback on anything you think about that related to this topic or really any other topic, modding or gaming related.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching and listening, everyone.
And Dope Swoner, and I am out. Peace, everyone.